All right, we've done a lot of everything wrong with videos. We've done Cat, International, Duramax, Cummins, Ford, Power Strokes. And you guys have been asking for it. Everything wrong with a 6.4 Power Stroke. We're just gonna mix this up a little bit, and we're gonna do an everything right with video. Everything right with a 6.4 Power Stroke. The rest of the truck is really nice to harvest. They have very little miles on them before they blow up, so the rest of the truck is actually in really good shape. Let's get into it. Here we go. We got it running, we got the intercoolers and radiators and cooling all figured out. It should all fit, no problems. So we're gonna keep stripping this 2010 F350, because in this episode we're cutting the firewall out, moving all of the HVAC stuff over and welding it into our 93 F350. Puppy, what do you think? I've already gone ahead and disconnected most of the stuff. We've harvested this for a pile of stuff already. There's some parts in the Mustang, some parts in the Silverado. The coolers have been moved over. So basically, coolant lines, and I'm doing it different. Sawzall is quicker than fighting with rusty bolts. Wiring harnesses, we don't care about anything engine-wise, but just unplug it here, a couple plugs here. We've got these that are important because these are the wiring for the fuel tank and the lights in the back. So we're keeping those. Brakes, you would take the master off, but I'm keeping the hydro boost for the 93, so we're just cutting the lines, leaving that alone. And then just a couple mounts in the cab. Take the cab mount off. I'm gonna go grab the boom from the neighbor, and then I can just pick it up with the forklift from the front, take the cab off, set it off to the side. Now there's much better videos on how to take a cab off if you are planning on putting the cab back on again, but that's not our case. I think this one is pretty well ready to get driven over by something heavy. There's not much good left on it. They all kind of break in the same spot. The fenders are rusty, the doors, mirrors, interior, everything's already harvested off of it. I think the transmission's good to go. I think the axles are even out of the back. I don't have any steering, and one of the back tires is locked up, so it's just kind of a pain. We'll just do it right here. Here we go. Okay, cab's out. We'll start disconnecting all of the HVAC stuff, pulling all of our wires through. Then we can pull all of our insulation sound deadening off, and then we'll cut off basically right along the hump. This is actually part of the C10 now. I already cut that out last winter. And I had a lot of questions where the C10 is. Our Duramax swap C10 tow truck is just on hold. It's in the house garage. It's not going anywhere. It's running. It's pretty well together. I have to do like 100 hours of welding on it for the cab mounts and finish up all the butt welds and all that. That's going to take some time. I haven't been able to squeeze 100 hours away anywhere because my Silverado, the transmission went. So I don't have a daily truck. So by viewer demand, I think there's more requests for the F350 to get done. So we'll finish hard on that. I'll pick away at the Silverado in between when I'm bored or I need a little break. And then as soon as one of them is finished, we'll roll the C10 back in again and finish that one up as well. It's not abandoned, it's not sold. It's just on hold because I need a daily driver. So back to this. Let's yank it apart. Here we go. Now this might actually be the first time I make money working on a Ford. Look at that. We got full loonie, couple dimes, couple nickels, just enough for coffee. Money in the bank, here we go. Looks like a Dutchman, even picking up all the little nickels. Okay, So I put a string on the other dash and just measuring from the center of the windshield to the string here, we've got about 6 3/4. The other one had
7/16 from the middle of the windshield to the string.
Okay, so we're pretty close. We just have about maybe 1/4 inch tops and the difference between the bow and the windshield. So I gotta knock this windshield out, and I'm gonna cut this lip right where the glue starts, and then take this entire firewall out. Probably just cut the seam here, and then just cut on this side of the seam here, and then we'll knock that off. And then we'll also cut all the way to the bottom here. So that's your air going in. This hump is higher than the other one, which will be nicer for the cat. And then we've got our pass-throughs for the wiring, the brake and everything. That brake and the whole steering assembly is all set up. It'll all bolt right in. And the pass-through for the wiring on that side. And then we'll still let the air in on this side, and then feed the HVAC unit right there. So we'll pull the valance off on the F350 and then start cutting. We'll run all those wires through first. And if you guys don't know, this is Tape Boss. This is my little invention. I made that and patented it and sold it. But I will no longer be making these, only because it is a lot of work to ship all of them and get all that taken care of. So we have a little bit of inventory left. Basically for this Christmas, we're gonna do the Black Friday sale. So we'll have a good sale going on, so check out tapeboss.com. It's just a little voice recorder that attaches to any tape measure. And then probably after this Christmas, you should have them in time for Christmas. We're not gonna have the sale for Christmas because shipping always gets delayed and then people get upset they don't get them in time. But that is about it. So if you want the one-of-a-kind Tape Boss. Also, when you fill out the order form, you can put something on it that I can sign them if you want before we ship them out. Otherwise, we're just going to ship them out. So I'm going to cut the rest of it out and go from there. Here we go. Well, I wish I had a stunt double that was as good at kicking out windshields as they do in the movies, but there is no easy way to remove those stupid windshields without the proper tools. So, sawzalls, blades, just try not to cut yourself. I got it up. I didn't bother cutting the top seam. I just folded it over. We'll clean up the bottom edge here. The side's cut okay, but that's the edge that I need to keep. So we'll vacuum up all the broken glass. Not too bad. Most of it stayed intact, but we'll vacuum that up, sweep that up, carry on. Here we go. Okay, now we don't like wasting things at the Boss Garage, so if you see anything that you need from this cab, it is available at Tuesday Auto Wreckers, like maybe this crank handle for these manual windows. Maybe a seatbelt yet? I think that, oh, maybe I'll take that out and put that in the back. Visors maybe, the headliner, it's just missing like the front 2 inches. That's not a big deal. You could glue that back on if you wanted. Or if you needed this socket for the lift cylinder for the hood. Yeah, so hit up Tuesday Auto Wreckers, that's where it is. But seriously, a big shout out, thank you to Tuesday. This truck has been in the driveway for about a year, I think. Ended up being a lot more useful to me than I thought it would. So that's gonna make everything so much easier. Can't wait to put it in, weld the firewall into the F350. We're gonna pull that cab back off again. But first we better get rid of this out of the yard. Here we go. Okay, there it is. Everything's stripped, ready to come apart. Now when we cut this firewall out, the other one I cut as big as I possibly could. This one I'm gonna cut as small as I possibly can. So we're gonna go around the holes that we wanna cover up. We wanna hit the flange on the bottom there, and then we wanna leave as much on top here afterwards. We can always cut it more later, but we can lay it up nice and butt up to it. A couple things we gotta think of is the hinges are on the firewall, not on the fender like they are in the 2010. So I kind of want to keep this factory because otherwise the gaps are going to be impossible to line up. So this will stay and that will stay, and we'll cut the firewall around that. Also the wiper, this is indented in here, but the one on the 2010 has a much higher cowl there. So I kind of want to incorporate that. So we're going to see if we can use the 2010 wiper system, and that means that the wiring harness will plug nicely right in there too. Other than that, we need to make sure that we keep the factory specs. So it's bolted down to my table on the bottom. We're going to weld a little X on the firewall to make sure that nothing shifts as we cut this thing out. Now I want to try and put the firewall in kind of from the outside here. We'll scoop it in, we'll clean that lip off, and then we'll just stay on the inside there a little bit, and that's where we'll weld the new dash to. If you're wondering why we're going to this extent for this firewall, I've seen a couple done on YouTube, but only the finished results. I don't know how they did it, and I can't imagine how they did it without having squeaks and rattles as they're going down the road, and I want to do my best to avoid that. You can have a really nice paint job and spend all the time on that, but if you're driving for 15 hours and all you hear is it drives you nuts. So we're going to take the extra effort to do this now. And it's probably ended up taking me an extra day to replace the firewall rather than fill all these holes and remount the brakes and the brake pedal and whatever else, the steering wheel. So we want to go to the full interior, and this is the best way to do that without any squeaks or rattles. Keeping that in mind too, when we put the HVAC on the other side, even if you had to make your mounts to hold that in place, other than a factory mount, you could twist the box a little bit, keep doors from opening properly, and maybe the fan rubs, who knows. We want to try and avoid all that. Seen another guy who did it, and he only had one fan speed and it only blew on the drivers for some reason. We don't want that. We want everything working and making it as seamless as possible. We're killing two birds with one stone here by making room for the engine, because that tunnel on the 10 is deeper, and proper mounting for the dash. Doesn't mean that we're going to completely rebuild this truck into a show truck. We could spend months on paint. We could redo the whole transmission, lift it, all this other stuff. We might do that later down the road, but for now, all we're doing is the engine conversion and getting this thing back on the frame and driving down the road. If we want to do the suspension later, we'll do that. There's nothing stopping us from next winter or whatever doing those upgrades or painting it or whatever we want to do. But for now, I want to have this thing kind of running and driving in about 300 hours worth of work. When you're working on your own project, you kind of need to sort that out too. Don't get overwhelmed by taking on absolutely every piece of the project. If you can leave certain stuff to the end, do that, because that will help clear your headspace and get you focused and finished on doing one thing at a time. That being said, let's cut this firewall out and go from there. Here we go. Trial and error, going in and coming back out again and coming back in. But I'm really happy with how that fits. We got a bunch of stuff hitting at the bottom to make this go in. And there is a plate on the other one that comes out, so we'll be doing that. This side is going to be in a hair, and that's fine too. Not a big deal. And then it's gonna work. It's hitting down below there. It's gotta come in more, but I'm hitting my transmission tunnel, which is good because everything's going to be farther back. We're going to have lots of room for the engine actually. I just hope there's enough room for the console and the dash without sticking too far into the door. And then it's not looking too bad. Just needs to tilt that in quite a ways, and then we're good. We'll probably start getting into the tunnel actually. The little cover there for the manual transmissions. Not a big deal. Do what we gotta do, and luckily we have a welder that fixes everything. So here we go. Okay, so cleaned off all the paint all the way around where it's gonna weld. And now we're ready to put the firewall in. Did the same thing here. Didn't do tape any of that, it's just grinding paint. Top lip is gonna be completely altered, and I can get at that nice and easy. So throw it in, here we go. Okay, so I have it tacked just in a couple spots. Really kind of ugly where it's kind of touching, and then now we can fit the dash for the first time. So get rid of my X because it's solid enough, nothing's gonna change, and then see where the dash kind of ends up. There we go. That's with the HVAC and everything in there. Awesome.
The bracket's in the way.
Bracket's in the way, but
yeah.
I think I'll make a new bracket that comes off the back and then bolts into the side here.
Post door?
What's that?
Door into the door pillar there.
Yeah, and then I think the door will close actually.
It looks like there's definitely room. I think so.
I think so. Nice. Really happy how that turned out. That's all butt welded with no grinding yet. I'll grind it after, show you guys. Now we just gotta finish up these corners. So basically in here, the water and the air comes in here. We want the air to go down this hole, feed the HVAC, but we want the water to run down here into this channel right down into here and then out this hole here. So we need to connect this firewall to there. Just gonna fill that gap, fill up that little gap in the back there, no worries. Okay, so that's all welded up together really nice. Everything but welded inside there. We'll put all seam sealer in there and then pour water down it before we finish anything to make sure that it's all sealed. But I gotta make this piece, which kind of goes in, down, in, around the corner, curls out. So we're gonna use some cardboard aided design for that. Super easy. I love those CAD drawings. Trace the inside there, and voila. Well, that doesn't really look like anything. It's beautiful. Couple of flapper discs from Princess Auto, and you could barely tell that that was welded in. All but welded in, nicely done. I gotta do the little gap here yet, and then, you know, just another giant hole over there. But, man, that looks so good. I gotta do the wiper yet. I gotta leave that until I have the wiper properly in there, make sure that that's good. So I had to kind of curl this around where the water runs, but I don't think it'll make the corner to drain and actually stop here because there's a hump. So just in case, I put a little tube just here to here. We'll run a little hose down, and then just in case the water can't make that corner, I don't want it to sit there. So we'll close this up, but this is actually up higher already, lower than this pipe, so it shouldn't make this corner here. But kind of ugly, but luckily there's a hinge here and a whole HVAC system, and maybe we'll put a battery right here just to, you know, cover up This is not the prettiest side. The other side, much nicer, but she'll look pretty for the next video for you guys. I think Aaron's coming in a bit. I think he's got the console, which is exciting. I gotta manipulate this just a little bit, but when you step back, you barely know that that is not the firewall that's supposed to be in this thing. So here we go. All right, now we got all the welding done inside. We're gonna put our dash in, but we also got a new console because originally we were gonna go with the F150 dash. Now we're going with the F550 dash, and we needed a console to match. So that made up our mind as to whether we're doing console shift or column shift. And this is kind of sad because this console costs more than the entire King Ranch interior. Good job packing it, buddy. And then that should butt up right to the bottom. So I think the gray is the right color for sure.
So this part here has to come off.
Yeah, and then that goes.
Yeah, like that.
Nice. That's exciting. We know the dash fits, we know the HVAC fits, we had it all bolted in there already, but you're gonna have to wait for the next episode to see everything together with the seats. This is the only way I see to make that dash fit in there and not squeak and have all the controls working the way that they're supposed to. So all the wiring will be from the F550. It'll be a Holly dash with the CAT standalone ECU. So that will feed the information to the Holly dash, but all the wiring, lights, cruise control, everything will be off the steering wheel, off of the F150 steering wheel, mixing and matching everything together, and that will be in an upcoming episode. So thanks for watching. We've got lots of other good stuff coming up. I did a lot of work on the Silverado. We've got something's gonna haul our tank around. We've got tank episodes coming up. It's gonna be a good fall, Christmas. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you're not filthy, you're not rich. Here we go.